Hello and welcome to this presentation. I will demonstrate the very new integration of Git with Dataverse, which facilitate straightforward source control within the Power Platform. This is a feature that Microsoft shipped in public preview recently, so basically 2 days ago. First, let's briefly summarize the ALM process in the Power Platform. Following best practices for ALM, Application Lifecycle Management, we should create our solution in a development environment where the solution remains unmanaged, allowing the source code to be accessible and modifiable. We then deploy the managed solution to both the test and production environment. This deployment can be carried out using Power Platform pipelines or the Power Platform build tool for Azure DevOps, which also provide source control by storing the source code in a Git repository. Now, the question is, what if we want each developer to work in their own development environment and be able to modify the solution? Because having every developer in the same environment, here in the dev environment, in the centralized dev environment, could be risky. With the Git integration in Dataverse, we can easily manage this. Indeed, Brian and Steve can work independently on their copies of the same solution in their own developer environment, and any change in this solution will be synchronized with the Git repository. Now, let's illustrate how this works. So let's go to Azure DevOps. In Azure DevOps, I've created two organizations, Redwood and ShareQL. So I'm going to create a project in Redwood. So my Git repository will be hosted in this project. As you can see, this is the repos place where you can initialize the repository. Okay, don't click this button. Now let's go back to Power Apps, and at this moment you need to use the make.preview.powerapps.com, right? Because it's still a public preview. So all the features that I'm going to illustrate are in public preview. So click Solution. So as you can see, we are in the shared dev environment, and now you should see Connect to Git. Of course, and here you need to select either environment if you want to synchronize all solution contained in one environment or one specific solution. So let's select environment, and here you see you can connect to the organization in Git, and most specifically the project and the repository. There is only one branch. Other features will come in the future. You need to specify one folder. Click Connect. And all the file structure will be created in Git. Now let's create a solution. Let's name it Solution X we can create a publisher, or we can use the default publisher. So let's create a publisher name ShareQL. The prefix is share. Save, and all right, publisher has been created. Fine, and now I can select the publisher for my solution. So my goal is, of course, to demonstrate that we can also use custom publishers, which, by the way, is a good practice. And now in the Solution Explorer, so right here, I'm going to create another solution, solution Y, so that we have two solutions. And I will keep this solution Y empty. Okay. Now let's go back here, and as you can see, we have solution X and solution Y, and we so connected to Git. So in solution X, let's create a flow, a basic Hello World flow. Start it from a button trigger. Let's add a compose. With hello, save. So let's go back. This is our first flow. And if I go back to Git, if you refresh Git, first you will see the folder, my main folder structure, and nothing under this folder, right? Because everything is still in the solution, in the shared environment. But now, as you can see, we have a new icon here, which is the Git icon next to the pipeline icon. If you click the Git icon, you should see new features. So we can see first that we are going to store this solution in the main branch of our repository. We can commit our changes. So if we commit, it is good practice to provide a meaningful comment here. Don't do what I'm doing. So you can commit, meaning that your update will be stored into the central repository, the Git repository, right? Now, if you do that, commit, if you refresh, you will see now in the main folder, we get new stuff, right? Folder containing our solution. We did commit only one solution, solution X, and as you can see, all the files are stored in YAML format, which is very good, of course. All flow is there, and the flow itself is stored in JSON format, so not everything is in YAML, right? The flow is in JSON format. The wrapper, which is workflow.yaml, is of course YAML. Now we have another solution which is empty. We can commit that as well. You see, we have changes. You can see that we did some changes. Provide a meaningful command for the commit. Commit often. Fully describe what you are doing for yourself and for the other developers. Commit. So all the changes are being moved to the Git repository. If we refresh, we should see a new folder in the solution folder. We should see solution Y, which normally should be pretty much empty. Cool. Now let's go to Steve environment. So Steve is a developer, and Steve wants to work on his side on the project. So you also need to connect Steve environment to the Git repository, to the branch, and to the folder. Connect. Okay. And now we can move to Brian environment. So let's connect Brian environment to the Git repository, and Brian can work on his side on a copy of the solution. So connect to the repository. Same branch, main folder. Cool. So now if I go back to the shared dev environment, I will have to export my solution and to share my solution with Brian and Steve so that they can have a copy of the solution to start with. Okay, so let's export, right? Export the unmanaged solution. Okay. So for the movie, I've already exported the solution before, so I won't do the export now. But now let's go back to Steve or Brian environment. So let's go to Steve environment and let's import this solution. So when you import the solution will be stored in the environment. We need to do the same thing with Brian, developer environment. Okay. And each developer will be able to work on their side and they will be able to commit and get new updates made by others. Okay, now in Steve, I can see the solution in Steve environment. As you can see, it's connected to Git, which is cool. And now I'm Steve. Let's open my project on my environment, and I'm gonna, yeah, you see, I can see the icon here. If I click change, I can see all the changes that have been made that need to be impacted back to the central repository. You see, so I can commit my changes. I can refresh, I can check for update. Don't forget when you commit to provide a meaningful description of what you have done. So it takes more than one line. It is usually good practice to provide a summary and then a detail in the commit text box. Okay. I can check for updates. So if another developer did some changes, I would see that in the update pane. Now let's change the workflow. And as Steve, I'm going to change that in my environment, for my environment. Edit. Hello from Steve. Let's save. When I save this, it is save only in the Steve dev environment. And this will have to be committed to the central Git repository. So always check for update. so that you can see the change made by other people or by yourself. There is one change that I've made. Okay, no update from other people, no conflict. Conflict means that other people work on the same file. Okay, so my update has been done. Let's go to Brian. And Brian can also see the Git icon, and Brian can see the update. Brian can check for update, and there might be some conflict because Brian has made a change because Brian just import the solution in the first place. So there are some conflict, potential conflict with the solution files. So you can select the files and you can say accept incoming changes because there are differences between this solution on the server and the one you have on your environment. Brian can check for update and Brian will see that they've been updated. To get the update, Brian has to pull. So pull means all the changes will come from the Git repository into his environment, into his solution in his environment. It might take some time, but normally Brian will see the change made by Steve. If Brian check the flow, he should see hello from Steve or hello world from Steve. Okay, so that's hello from Steve, right? This is how people can work together on the same project on their own dedicated environment. So no Brians can make a change. No, you know the music, and Brian can save the change, and Brian can check for update. No update. There is a change made by Brian itself, and Brian will commit the change to Git repository, and so on and so on. Don't do what I'm doing. Again, provide great description. You will benefit from that. Now, if I go to the Git repository, I can see all the changes. I can see the history changes. I can see the differences made by each developer. So if I check the workflow, I can see the different content. You see here. I can see the history made by different people. I can compare the files in side by side or in the same pane. So inline. So that's really cool. So now we have nice tools as citizen developer for creating and working together on the same project, but in dedicated environment, right? So Git is also a nice way to back up your project. As you know, by default, environments are automatically backed up by Microsoft, and since they are managed environment, they are kept for 28 days. Azure DevOps also provide 28 days of backups, so it's not nothing better than what Microsoft provide at the environment level. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much.